Hi guys, Mr. Bennett here. Now we're going to be looking at question 2 today in looking at one of these examples where you've got to factorise a cubic polynomial. So it's told you that x equals minus a half is a root, is a solution of that. That's what it means. And then you've been given the rest of it. So it says write that as a product of linear factors and a quadratic factor, and then use the quadratic formula to find the remaining solutions. Obviously it doesn't come out very easily, so let's do that. I'll just get myself a pencil. Let's do it in red today. So I could write this here, that x equals minus a half. If I want to write that as a factor, then that's going to become equal to 2x plus 1. All right, you have to think about if x is equal to minus a half, then that's 0. All right, and then I'm going to think about how do I get my other factors. Well, I'm going to just take the shortcut rather than using ax plus bx, whatever. I know I have to match it to be the same as that. So 2x times by what is going to give me 2x cubed? Well, it has to be x squared. All right, it has to be that. Then we've got this minus 2. So what would I have to times 1 by to get minus 2? Well, it'll have to be minus 2, wouldn't it? And then I've got some value. I'm going to call it kx. You can call it whatever you want to, but it's got to be something. So now what I've got to do is I've got to expand that out, and then I'll equate that to be the same thing over here. So I'm going to get 2x cubed. I'm going to times 2x by kx, that's going to become 2kx squared. 2x times by minus 2 is going to be minus 4x. I'm going to do the same thing with a 1. That's going to be plus 1x squared, so x squared plus 1kx, and then take 2. Now we've got to equate our x terms together, so 3x squared. So I'm going to have my x squared, which is going to be plus 2k plus 1. That's my x squared terms together. Equate my x terms together. That's going to be, now you can write it however you like, but it's easy to write as k take 4x and then take 2. Now with equating these things, we know that when we're looking at these two things here, that 9 has to be equal to 2k plus 1. We also know that it hasn't got an x term. We know that k take 4 has to be equal to 0. So therefore, k has to be equal to 4. All right, if we just check that, 2 times by 4 plus 1 is going to give me 9. That makes sense. So I've now found my factor for that. So if I go back to writing my equation, I've got this thing over here which is going to be 2x plus 1, and it says x squared plus 4x take 2. Now I know it's not going to easily factorise because they're telling me I have to use my quadratic formula. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my discriminant. That's going to be b squared minus 4ac. So that's going to be, my b's 4, so it's going to be 4 squared 16. Take 4 times by 1 times by c, which is minus 2. So that's going to give me 16 plus 8, which is equal to 24. I'm going to do that inside the quadratic formula anyway. Now the quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus or minus the discriminant all over 2a. So therefore x is equal to minus b. Now minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 24 all over 2a. Now a is in fact 1, so that's going to be 2. So therefore, when I'm doing that, see how that bit there, even though it just takes a bit longer, I know I'm going to get a solution, but it makes the next bit really easy. So it's a good habit to get in to do the discriminant first. So I'm thinking, can I simplify root 24? Yes, I can. 4 and 6, so therefore it's going to be minus 2 plus or minus. Now, this is a little thing that you need to get, you probably have to realise. So root 24 is equal to square root of 4 times 6. What's the square root of 4? That's 2, so I can write that as 2 root 6. That's what I'm going to do over here. So it's going to be plus or minus 2 root 6. Why did I write 2 there? Let's get rid of that. Sorry, it should be minus 4 plus or minus 2 root 6 all over 2. And then I can cancel the 2 into both of them. So that goes in there twice, and that goes into there once. So therefore, that's going to become minus 2 plus or minus root 6. Now, while you're not familiar with this, then I'm going to write that as equal to minus 2 plus root 6, or minus 2 take root 6. Are my two solutions. So if we want to have all the factors, we've also got this factor, which is minus a half as well. All right, so I've now fully factorised using the quadratic formula, and I found the factors of that particular question as well, question 2. All right, so I hope this helps. Again, it's the same thing. It's not really anything totally different. Really, again, it's making sure that whatever you do with a polynomial, whether it's a cubic or a quartic, what we want to do is we want to get that down to being a very simple equation, and we always bring it down to be a quadratic. All right, that's the main thing that we need to do with this stuff. Now, something that's really important is that you can check this using your calculator. Now, when you come to your calculator, what we've got here is an app called Polysim. So whatever it is, I think it's number 8 on this one. All right, I'm going to do a root finder, and I'm going to do a cubic. All right, so I've got my cubic there. Once you've done that, you want to press the next step, which is the graph button up there. And I'm going to type in the equation now. It was 2, enter. Going to go across. It was minus, and it was 9x squared. I'm going to go across, and it doesn't matter if we're going to go plus or minus or there. We had no x terms, so that's 0. And then the last term was, if I go back to my equation, which I can't remember, it's plus 9x squared, so it's take 2. So go back to here, and it's take 2, and I can scroll back to these ones here, and I'll just make that plus. Enter. Right, so now I've got my quadratic there, and I'm going to press solve that, which is the graph button there. So it's given me those values, given me the negative a half there. Now, if I go back to my my main menu, which is that one there, and I come to my Polysim again, I can, it's not going to give me the square roots. That's not what it's going to do, but it's going to give me an answer. So if you went to solve that, and now you do the minus 2 plus square root of 6 and minus 2 take the square root of 6, you're going to get these two answers here. All right, so that's a way of you checking to make sure that you've got it right. Obviously, you could write these as decimals, but it's better to write as minus 2 plus root 6 minus 2 take root 6 with that. All right, the calculator is a really good way of checking to see that you've got it correct. All right, so that's and ultimately, I mean, if we couldn't solve that, if we could put it into a calculator, it's going to tell us if we're going to find the roots anyway, which is a useful thing to know.